So this person, who is anonymous, says, "Hello, what would you recommend for those who accompany a loved one with a mental health issue, especially when, due to my attachment style, it's difficult for me to set boundaries and I tend to fall into the savior complex?"
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about attachment. Do you guys know what attachment is?
I mean, I know what physical attachment is.
Yeah.
I think I know what emotional attachment is as well, but why don't you tell us?
Okay, so attachment comes out of, it was really sort of promoted by this guy named John Bowlby, and further developed in humans and among parents and children by this woman named Mary Ainsworth. But here's the gist of attachment. Attachment is the social emotional bond between a child and a caregiver, right? It's the you sort of know it when you see it. And so, if you were to walk in my house and try to pick up my 8-month-old now, he's just coming into this really clear attachment behavior phase. Pick up my 8-month-old and grab him and look at him, he would immediately orient toward me and reach out. So attachment is fundamentally, it's about felt security. Feeling safe in your very being. And you see this in children who have secure attachments. Now there's two ways of sort of thinking about this. One is you can think of secure attachment and insecure attachment, or you could think insecure attachment has sort of subtypes. So you've got avoidant attachment, you've got anxious ambivalent attachment, and something called disorganized attachment. But I think it's easier for just us to think about it in terms of secure and insecure attachment. So if your parents are attuned, that means they see what you need accurately. Like moment by moment, they see what's actually like going on. What are your deep needs? Right? And this is tough with kids because sometimes kids are crying when they're scared, but we think that they're tired. Or sometimes kids are tired, but we think they're hungry or something. And even as adults, right, seeing what somebody actually needs, being deeply attuned to them, that communicates security. I see what you need. So if our parents are attuned, they're warm or empathic. So you don't just need to see the need, you need to respond then in a way that's like warm, not cold and distant, not rigid and detached, not sort of chaotic and frantic and anxious. You respond with warmth and empathy, and then they respond consistently. So those three things, attunement, warmth, and consistency. If parents do this, you're likely to have a secure attachment. And what that means is you will feel in times of threat or distress, you will orient toward your caregiver. You'll turn toward them. You'll seek proximity. You'll view them as a safe haven, like a place of emotional and physical safety. You'll feel like a deep sense of I'm okay, like I'll be okay. And so here's the beautiful thing. When we get this from our parents and we have a secure attachment is correlated with all sorts of positive outcomes. We have lower rates of depression, anxiety, stress. You have overall better mental health if you have a secure attachment. You also are more likely to have like better relationships. So here's what's fascinating. Here's a dynamic you oftentimes see. Somebody's got an anxious attachment, which means they're really worried that you're going to leave them. You're not going to be there for them. You're not going to respond to them the way they need. You're not seeing what they need. They're anxious. So folks with anxious attachments, they lean in really hard. Hey, are you there? Are you there? You didn't respond. Are we going to be okay? Is everything all right? So they're leaning in. Somebody who's got an avoidant attachment in times of anxiety or stress pulls back. And so sometimes you see in relationships, friendships, marriages, an avoidant and an anxious attachment style. And that can be like gasoline and fire, because in times of stress or strain or threat, the avoidant person leans in and says, hey, are we okay? Is everything okay? Are we doing okay? The anxious person pulls back. The avoidant person pulls back and says, whoa, 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 which only confirms for the anxiously attached person, something's wrong. So they lean in even harder, and the avoidant person then pulls back even more, and you've got this just vicious cycle, right? So this is attachment. Attachment is all about felt security. Fascinating aside, maybe. I have some academic articles on attachment because I think it's just fascinating and really important. But a number of studies suggest that your your attachment style serves as your template for how you're attached to God. So we think about attachment in human terms, parent, like caregiver, child. But in our faith, monotheistic faith, but particularly in Christianity, we've called God Father. We call church mother, or we have the Blessed Mother. So God is a divine caregiver. We can have an attachment style with God. And the question is, in our relationship with God, are we securely attached, where in times of threat or distress, we turn to him and we feel safe and secure, like deeply? Do we have an anxious attachment? We're afraid he's going to leave us. We're afraid if we don't constantly impress him, if we're not constantly living up, he's going to leave. What if he leaves? What if he's not there? What if I've offended him? Or do we have an avoidant attachment? Just like, I don't view you as a comforting figure. Let's just keep our distance. And what's fascinating about that is sometimes people with anxious attachments can look like the holiest people. They're in the church all the time. They're constantly praying the rosary there. But it's driven by fear that if I don't stay close, if I don't cling to you really, 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 really hard, you're going to leave me. So what the research has found is that we tend, right? This is on average, to have an attachment style to God that corresponds to our attachment to our caregivers. So if I were to measure your attachment style, if you were to measure mine, if we were to measure our children's attachment styles, we tend to have the same attachment style with God that we have with earthly caregivers. And this sort of makes sense, right? Our attachments with early caregivers serves as a template or a pattern for how we can expect God to respond. I mean, it's all we have early on, right? So our sons or our daughters, when they hear the word father, right? Their image of father right now is this. Does my dad see what I need? Right? When my daughter goes moping by or sulking by quietly, do I just say like, oh, she's fine, she's quiet? Or do I say, hey, babe, come here. What's going on? You're really, really angry right now. I can tell. What's up? Come here, sit down. Right? Let's talk. Or I know I said what I said before really, really bothered you. Come here, let's talk. Do I consistently respond by seeing her needs and responding in a warm way? If I do, when she hears God the Father, her pattern, her image for God the Father is going to be, oh, I know what Father is.
Yeah.
Right? Or if I respond inconsistently, angrily, cold or distant, if I'm really punitive, she's going to say, oh, I know how to react. I know how to relate to God the Father. Right? It'd be great if we just read the scriptures and formed our own imprint, but we use...
Yeah, we come to know about God through relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
What's your advice to parents who feel terribly discouraged about what you've just said, since none of us are perfect and none of us see our children's needs, are empathetic, we are frantic at times, we do yell at times. How do we deal with that?
Two things about that. The first is, I think, generally learning this stuff can help us see our children differently. The truth is, so many of the things that frustrate me and my parent, and let me back up even further. The first is being aware of our own attachment styles, right? It's really easy for me to bring my image of my father and my mother into how I parent, right? I can let my attachment style, right, if it's insecure, affect how I interact with my children. So being mindful of our own attachment styles, taking time to think about it. There's a couple books out there on this. There's a book called Attached. I don't remember the author right now. But learning about your attachment style can be really helpful, because if you have an avoidant attachment and your child's really coming to you with needs, you might feel the desire to pull back. Or if your child has really big feelings or emotions and you have an anxious attachment style, that can make you feel really, really uncomfortable. And so you like draw them really, really close, but then you're really anxious. And so then it's not making them feel safe or comfortable. So being mindful of your own attachment style can help you pause before you want to react or respond to your child.
Right? Are we looking at Attached by Amir Levine, Dr. Amir Levine?
Yes.
And Rachel S.F. Heller, M.A.
Yes. Yeah. So learn about your own attachment style first, right?
And I would imagine too, like, the question I just had then was, what do you say to those who feel kind of discouraged because they know they're not perfect? I imagine, and you tell me what you think, how we react to that anxiety probably says something about our own attachment.
100%. Right? Yeah, 100%. And look, here's the good news about attachment. we can change. They're sometimes called these internal working models, these templates for how relationships work. We can change them. Now they're deeply embedded in us from early childhood, but they're not immovable. They can change, and they change with experience. You don't sort of think your way into a new attachment style. You act your way into a new attachment style. So maybe I feel anxious. Maybe I feel like I want to avoid sort of a big emotional thing that's happening right now. I stop. I take a breath. I realize that this is part of my attachment style, right? Or maybe related to my attachment style. And I make an effort to say, I'm going to lean into this moment. I'm going to actually approach my child. I'm going to try to use a calm voice. So if you're feeling discouraged about this, like, look, start by learning a little bit about your own attachment style and how that may be shaping your parenting, because it can change. It can change. So there's hope, right?
Yeah,
it can
that's
change.
Great.
The second thing, right, is, and this is probably the most important thing in parenting, Matt, if you had to sort of boil it down. Maybe the two most important things, attachment being one, but related to attachment is rupture and repair.
Yeah.
Right, man, look, we're always going to fail. Matt, I fail daily to love each of my kids the way they need to be loved. I bring my own baggage. I bring my own, hurts and wounds. I'm reactive. I'm filled with fear. I'm impatient. The difference between good parents and parents that are not as good as they should be, or parents who need to grow even more, is good parents, when they rupture, and we're always rupturing. Ruptures are big or small too. Obviously a blow up is a rupture, but when my son comes by and he says, "Hey Dad, I fixed my go-kart today." And I go, "Oh, cool, buddy." And then I turn to something else really quick, and he's left feeling like, "Oh, Dad doesn't care. Dad doesn't see me.
Mm-hmm.
Dad doesn't appreciate me." That's a rupture. That's a little rupture, right? So ruptures can be big, they can be small, but what matters is, and for those of you that are discouraged out there, what matters is the good parents repair. That's the most important thing.
I love it.
Not rupture. You're always going to rupture.
Yeah.
And we do this with our spouses. We do, right? It's about repair. It's about going back and saying, "Hey, bud, I freaking messed up. You were super excited when I came in, and I feel like I missed that. Come here, show me what's happening."
That's really
with
good.
our spouses, dude. Like, "Babe, sorry, when you told me before that you were feeling overwhelmed, I feel like I was just really distracted and I wasn't listening. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Can you tell me?
Would you use the word reattaching, or is that maybe?
Yeah,
it depends
could.
how you use the word
It
attachment.
depends on the
but
word, right?
Yeah, you're sort of okay. So you're repairing the rupture, is what you would say.
And that is part of what that creates, right? Is a secure attachment, because this person knows you're safe. You're safe.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought about the video.